南无本师释迦牟尼佛。南无本师释迦牟尼佛。南无本师释迦牟尼佛。That means we pay respect, we take refuge, or we have the faith in our teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. So the opening gatha, the Dhamma infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and to practice. May we fully understand and realize the Tathagata's true meaning. Actually, it should be, I changed the opening gatha a little bit. The third sentence, now we are able to hear, study, and to practice. May we fully understand and realize the Tathagata's true meaning. Now it comes to my thought is really not the Tathagata's true meaning. It's actually the Tathagata's true teachings rather than meaning. His teachings is more important and then just the meaning or the meaning of his teachings. Yeah. The true meaning of his teachings. Yeah. Okay. Huh. Okay. All right. I forgot why I have this here. Last week we talked on chapter 11 of this, the Sutta of the 42 chapters, or Sutra of the 42 chapters. And remember, the last one is the most blessings that one gets. Remember, we raised a question, and the lady at the end on the corner, can't remember her name, something Ash. She said, "Oh well, she thought that the Buddha was the one that when we offer, we will get the most blessings because that's the Buddha." And I don't think I gave a very good answer. The next day, I woke up and I found the answer myself. I thought this will be a better answer, so I'm going to bring it out again. And the last of that sutra was the last of that chapter is that it is actually better or more. You get more blessings to offer food to one who no thought, no abidance. That means he is not in whatever that he was doing. He is not in there. He's not staying in that state. That means by no abidance and no cultivation and no attainment, then to 100 billion Buddhas of the 3 periods of time. 3 periods of time, we talked about that last time, is past, present, and future. One would think that, yes, the Buddha, we think he would be the most enlightened being on earth that we could know of. But how could a Buddha become a Buddha? A Buddha is a Buddha because he has no thought. He is the one with no thought. He's the one with no abidance. He's the one with no cultivation, and he is the one with no attainment. And he became enlightened because he is the one with no thought. He is the one with no abidance. These are the highest qualities of a Buddha. Does that sound more logical than the answer that I gave last week? I think this is a more logical answer. As the same applies to the triple gem. What is the triple gem? Or what is the triple jewel? The 3 jewels. The Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Remember we talked about that. Among these 3 jewels, which is the most precious? Should be. Why? Why is the Dhamma the most precious? Exactly, Jaren, thank you. Without the Dhamma, there won't be a Buddha. Because the Buddha is the Buddha because he understands the truth of existence. And the truth of existence is the Dhamma. And because of the Dhamma, that makes somebody a Buddha. Because of him actually seeing through the Dhamma, he became enlightened. So those who actually see through this with no thought, with no abidance, with no cultivation, with no attainment, becomes a Buddha and becomes one who, when we offer, we get the highest blessings than we offer to just a Buddha. Yeah? It's a little bit difficult to comprehend, but that's how I see it. If you can see it, think of the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha. The Dhamma is always flowing. The Dhamma is always there, but not necessarily the Buddha nor the Sangha. Right? That's why we have those Buddhas who actually attain enlightenment on their own without the teachings of the Buddha, or without the existence of the teachings of the Buddha, or without the existence of a Buddha. Self-enlightened, particular Buddha, right? We talked about that last week. So we try to comprehend that in that aspect. That's how I see one can put an explanation to this in a better perspective.
Is it true the Dhamma is just the path?
A Dhamma is what?
Is the path.
The Dhamma is the path. The practice of the Dhamma is the path. The practice of it. The Dhamma is just, well, as I said before, the Dhamma has many definitions. A couple of the definition is, the first thing, the Dhamma represents the teachings of the wise, of the Buddha. And second definition is, the Dhamma represents the phenomenon, the existence of the phenomenon, the nature of existence of the phenomenon. And also, when we talk about the mind, when we talk about the Dhamma of the mind, then the definition is a little bit different. The Dhamma of the mind is whatever state of the mind is at that particular moment. That's the Dhamma of the mind. Or you can call that the content of the mind. When I briefly talk about the Satipatthana, when we talk about the Dhamma, when we talk about the four Satipatthanas, the last two are the Dhamma and the Chitta and the Dhamma. So Chitta is the mind, and the Dhamma is the content of the mind at that particular moment. I like to use an analogy of how we see these two things, the Chitta and the Chitta and the Dhamma, is orange, and orange. And orange is the Chitta. Okay, there's an orange. The fruit inside the orange is the Dhamma, the content. So if it is an orange, you won't get a grapefruit flesh inside an orange, right? And if the orange is very dry, then at that time, the content of the orange is dry. Huh? If it is sweet, then the content of the orange is sweet. So if I am angry now, my mind is filled with anger, and the Dhamma of the mind at that time is anger. So what's the nature of that anger? Impermanence. And it arises because of conditions. It's conditioned. Yeah? Okay? And because it is conditioned, there is no one in inherent existence, no true existence of that anger, because it's conditioned. Anything that is considered conditioned, we call it, there is no true existence of that thing, of that particular thing. So you call this a hammer or a stick, whatever, then you ring the gong with. So what is this stick? What is this hammer? It's wood, it's glue. But besides wood and glue, there is seed, there is a tree. And there is a farmer, there is soil, there is water, there is sun, there is transportation, there is polishing, there is a carpenter, and there is money because somebody has to pay to get this. And there is an offering because somebody has to bring this to me. And there's me there's me, I here using it. And there's this thing here before it can actually be useful. So this thing is conditioned. The existence of this thing is conditioned. So you could ask, what is the real existence of a hammer, of this stick? It's conditioned. So what is this? Where is this thing? Is this true? Apparently, it is true. On the surface, it is true. We have to give it a label. This is called a stick, or this is called a hammer, or bell ringer, or whatever. You have to give it a name just for convenience, like Mary, or this is Mary. Only this is Mary, the Mary. There are so many Marys outside, even with the same last name, Mary Smith or Mary K. Smith. But where is Mary K. Smith? Mary K. Smith is a combination of factors that make Mary K. Smith Mary K. Smith. But where is Mary K. Smith? What is Mary K. Smith? Who is Mary K. Smith? Who? The hair? The face? Or the parents? Or the body? What? So we see this is an apparent existence, but the true existence is conditioned. It's a fascinating topic. Mary. This is, anatta is such a fascinating topic. Conditioned arising is such a fascinating topic. So this is, the Dhamma, yeah? Explain, yeah? Clear enough about the definition of Dhamma? All right. Okay, can we go on? Okay, chapter 12. In chapter 12, the Buddha said, there are 20 difficulties in the cultivation, or you can call it in a spiritual cultivation or a mental cultivation. And the Buddha said people have 20 kinds of difficulties. The first one is, it is difficult for the poor to practice dana. That means generosity or offering. And it is difficult for the rich and eminent to practice the way or the path. And it is difficult to renounce life when facing death. And it is difficult to encounter the Buddha's sutras, that mean the Buddha's teachings. It is difficult to be born in the time or at the time of the existence of a Buddha. And it is difficult to subdue desire and lust. It is difficult not to covet what one likes, okay? And it is difficult to face humiliation without anger. True, isn't it, Terry? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and it is difficult to have power and not abuse it. Yeah, it's so true. I just saw the FBI report on the email accounts just like before I came, and oh, don't mention that name. No names. So, and it is so difficult to have power and not abuse it. Yeah, or not use it. AB use it. Yeah, it is difficult to face situations with a detached mind. It is difficult to master vast areas of knowledge. It's true. It is difficult to extinguish self-conceit. It is difficult not to belittle those who are unlearned. And it is difficult for the mind to act with impartiality. It is difficult not to gossip or be judgmental. And it is difficult to meet the right learned teacher. It is difficult to see one's original nature and practice the path. It is difficult to guide beings appropriately to liberation. It is difficult to be unperturbed by circumstances, and it is difficult to master the expedient means of the way. So these are the 20 difficulties that the Buddha said we as sentient beings actually face this kind of difficulties. Of course, there are more difficulties, but these are the most important difficulties that we are actually facing, or we could face in the future days of our life if we want to cultivate the path. Okay, so we will look at these difficulties one by one in detail, and hopefully after studying these difficulties, when these difficulties arise, hopefully we are mindful enough to actually bring our awareness back and see if we can overcome that difficulty and push ourselves, into a progress and improve ourselves. All right. Okay. So chapter 12, 20 difficulties in cultivation. And the Buddha said people have 20 kinds of difficulties. So he said difficulties, but it doesn't mean impossible. Okay. And because of us visualizing or experiencing these difficulties, it actually gives us a chance to say, hey, yes, now I can be stronger. Let me try to overcome the difficulties. Like so far, we have been studying all these, and the Buddha said, why do we have to actually walk on the path? Why? Give me one reason why. Everybody looks so blank. To get enlightened. So what does enlighten bring you?
Awareness
Uh,
and choice. I think we have
Awareness and choice.
yeah, and more choice.
More choices than
Not aware.
exactly good.
Get out of suffering.
Get out of sufferings and be happy, right? Get out of sufferings. Get out of sufferings, then you will be happy. That means get out of difficulties. That means you will be in a better position, right? So it's two sides to a coin, isn't it? Sufferings here. You get out of it. Oh, just like flipping your palm over. And same with difficulties, because there are difficulties. When we remove the difficulties, then we will be at peace and at ease. So difficulties are opportunities. And I remember one of my old friends who he used to work in the prison, and he always told me, he said, what did he say? Oh, challenges. He said, no, there is no challenge in the world. Every challenge is an opportunity for you to progress, for you to improve. So it's not a challenge. It is an opportunity. I said, wow, yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. When we think of it as a challenge, that means we may have difficulty dealing with that because we think it is so difficult. Or we may have no confidence, not enough confidence to deal with it. Or we may not have enough strength to deal with it. But when we think of it as an opportunity, it's more on the positive side. Hey, I can make it work. Hey, the amount of work I put in and the amount of fruits I will reap, right? So it's more positive than negative. All right. So the whole path of the Buddhist teaching is actually allowing us to remove all these difficulties, to remove all these dissatisfactions, to remove all these unhappiness, which we call dukkha. Yeah. And then we will be in sukha, not sutta, sukha, Sukha. or sukha, okay? And dukkha is the difficulties, the sufferings, the dissatisfaction, the unhappiness. But then when we remove enough of the dukkha, then we will be in a lot of sukha, okay? So therefore the whole teachings is actually helping us to actually cultivate more sukha rather than multiplying more dukkha. So if we, as the practitioner, when we start to practice the path and we constantly check ourselves, am I more miserable or am I happier? If I am more miserable, or if I'm constantly more emotional or constantly having more afflictions, then we really need to seek some advice and seek some help, or go back to the sutta and find, hey, is practicing the teaching will bring more sufferings? Look it up on the internet, right? And is this the art of living, or this is the art of suffering, or this is the art of liberation? So we have to constantly check ourselves. And okay, we are human beings. Yes, give ourselves some leeway. I can have emotions. Okay, I did have emotions today. I cried just now. Five o'clock, I cried because I was writing on my father's legacy page. And today was the day 5 of the 3rd week. And because I came back from San Francisco, and normally if I come back on a trip, a short trip or long trip, and if it's during the day, I would have dropped in to visit him. And today, Jaron just turned into the highway because I had no more father to go and visit. So when I wrote that when I typed into his legacy page, the tears just came. It just came, and I knew I was dealing with grief again. And it just came and just came and came and came. And so I wiped down the tears, and then I observed and I observed and I sat and I observed my breath. I observed my feelings. I observed my sensation. And I knew I was dealing with grief. And that is okay. Right? So, and I asked myself, hey, what's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with you? You still grieving? You still sad? And I wasn't talking. I was really contemplating. I was thinking, hey, why am I crying? I think it's not losing my father. It's not just that simple. I think it's all the stress that add up. From 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 this project, and then all the trips, and all the work, and then all the emotions. It just keep, because it's piling, right? And so certain time it will come up, certain time it will come up, for some time it will come up, allow it to come up, allow it to surface. Otherwise, if you don't allow it to surface, you push it back down, then you're suppressing it, suppressing, rather than allow it to come, allow it. And then I realized, oh no, it's not just the grief. It's actually all the stress that I have been I am not cultivating, accumulating. I really don't want to cultivate stress, but accumulating in the past 6 months or so. You know, it's all that stress, all past 6 years, whatever. But it really doesn't matter about the time frame, but it's really, there is a lot of stress, you know. So and it's natural. And when I really went back to contemplate rather than allowing myself to cry, and the tears just, stop flowing, and it's okay. I mean, even now when I talk about it, it's still okay. There is no no hard feeling, no difficult sensations, and my breath is still okay, and everything is still okay. So, it's just certain moment it will surface, because it becomes so strong, and you're not reacting to it, you'll allow it to surface. When it is weak, it's like little specks here and there. It won't surface that strong that you will recognize or notice. But when all these speckles come together, become a lump, and it will surface, and allow it to surface. Okay. So, okay, and so the Buddha said the first difficulty we're facing, it is difficult for the poor to practice dana, generosity. Why is just the poor? Why do you think?
We have to go out and work and get food and, look after day-to-day things. They don't have a lot of extra time.
Extra time, extra money, extra
Anything.
anything.
They're not as attached because they have less to be attached to. The poor,
The poor has less to attach to.
whereas the rich have more, they're attached more.
But why is it difficult for the poor to practice dana then if they have less attachment?
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of,
The other way, the
Yeah.
second one.
yeah,
You are too far, you're
Yeah.
too fast.
not present.
Thank you for this self-awareness. That's the kind of student, being aware. I'm too fast, and admit it. Right? It's so nice to be so honest with oneself. By being honest, we don't actually create emotions, and we don't actually suppress the emotion by being honest. Okay. So why is it difficult for the poor to practice dana? You said because they're so busy trying to make ends meet, and maybe they don't have extra to give. But is it true that the poor cannot practice dana enough?
They can practice
Why? How?
by offering time, doing chores.
But why do you think the Buddha said it is difficult? There must be a reason.
Maybe a person was poor and because of the complication and to give them
Okay, that's one very good reason. Okay, everybody hears that? Please, Laurie teacher, you have a teacher's voice. You have make the whole class hear.
Say again.
Please.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was just thinking that perhaps it's difficult for a poor person to feel generous or want to give because they have so little, so they want to keep it.
To hold on to it, the attaching. Yeah. Anybody else offer any other answers? Yes, Mary.
I've heard that the evidence suggests that the poor are far more generous than the rich.
It's true. It's true. But there must be a reason that the Buddha said this.
Maybe less educated, they're not exposed to it, they're not going someplace and, not near, maybe they don't live near a temple or a place.
Not just necessarily the dana, not just necessarily giving to temple.
Maybe close to Dana.
Yeah, the dana not necessarily to the temple, the generosity not necessarily towards the sangha. Yes, Yuka.
Maybe they don't believe that they actually can give anything.
Very good. Yeah, they don't believe that they can actually give anything. Why?
Because they're perceived.
To be so poor. I cannot give, or I don't deserve to have the chance to give. They feel so inferior, right? You have an answer?
Well, I was just wondering if it's related to their past lives.
Of course.
Karma.
Of course, this is definitely, there is a cause and effect here. Everything there is a cause and effect. Why would they become poor this life? Because in the past life, they did not practice generosity. So this life, they can practice generosity and they become poor. There's always an effect, a cause and effect thing. Okay? So because Yuka gave a very good reason. They don't believe that they have the ability to give. because they don't deserve, they think that they don't deserve a chance to be generous, and they don't think that they can give, and they feel that they are inferior. And also they feel, why am I so poor? It's not fair. The responsibility of being poor is on others, not on their own.
You mean the responsibility for the poor?
No, being poor. They become poor. The responsibility.
Sometimes people are poor for most of the time, not because of what they do or don't do. There's so many societal factors contributing to keeping people in poverty.
Yeah, but still, why would they live in such a society?
Well,
Why won't you live in such a society then, Mary?
I might not have choice.
Why?
Well,
Why didn't you have choice?
I'm not speaking to me personally.
Yeah, no, but think about that line of thinking. Why? Why wouldn't I born? I was very poor when I was younger.
You mean materially?
Oh yeah, very. That is my sister over there. Most of the people knew because when my father passed away, we make an announcement. Tan Sifu and the Sifu's father. So most of the people know that we are actually sisters, real sisters, blood-related sister, and also now spiritual sisters. We were very, very poor because I was born in the 50s. In the 50s, at that time in Hong Kong, it was very poor. It was after the war. I was born in 55, and so like only a few years after the war, less than 10 years after the war. So the whole Hong Kong was very poor. Of course, there were a lot of rich people too, right? We were not the poorest at that time. We were the most poorest or the most poor? Really? Okay.
That's English.
Okay. We were not the most poor at that time. We were the most poor when I was in my, I think 6 years old, 6 to 12 years old. It was high school, primary school, and secondary school. We hardly had any rice to eat. So we will have porridge. And sometimes we were lucky to have rice, but we have no other food to go with the rice. Crickets. Yeah, that's delicacies, right? Now, no, not crickets, water crickets. Okay. No, we have salted fish. The salted fish is like the size of like this. It's silver and gray, and it's like a dry fish. So at that time, mom would go and get 10 cents of fish, the dry fish, and we would share among 8 of us for 2 or 3 meals. And we went to missionary school. Well, I went to Christian schools because at that time, only Christian school would have a waiving school fees. Okay. So I remember I used to pay $5, Hong Kong dollars. It's less than $1 Canadian now, $5 a month for school fees. And yet we did not have that money to pay. And sometimes my mom would ask me or ask her to go to the market to borrow meat, to borrow vegetables. And the vendor will put that into the little book. At the end of the month, if mom has $5, we pay $5. If she has 10, we will pay 10. My mom was a very, very honest person. She will not take advantage of anybody. If she has money, she will pay. And that's where we learn from her. And we were very poor. But one good quality that my mom taught us was no matter how poor you are, you have to be very grateful for those people who have helped you. And you have to help them first before you help yourself. And one person my mom was so grateful to was my father's aunt. She was the wife of the uncle of my dad. My dad was an orphan. His father died at 4 when he was 4, and his mother died when he was 10. He was in China. So his uncle brought him to Hong Kong and raised him. And because of the uncle and the aunt, the couple actually raised my father. That's why we had, he had us, right? So even though later in our lives there was some conflict between the two families, and they really did not treat us very well, but my mom always said to 6 of us, we had 6 siblings, I'm the baby, I'm the youngest, and my mom always said to us, without your great uncle and great aunt, there won't be your dad. Your dad won't survive. And without your dad, there won't be us in this family. She said, just because of this, no matter what they did to our family, we have to be grateful. At that time, we owed people so much money. But whenever mom had $5, at the end of the month, she was asked, Tan Sifu, go and take that $5 and offer it to the great aunt. And Tan Sifu started to look after the great aunt when she was 14. Buying, cooking, washing, everything. Why? Because my mom taught us. People who have offered you help, no matter how minute that help was, you have to remember that. And you have to be grateful for that. We were poor, but yet we did not feel that it was unfair, because my mom did not complain about us being poor. She always told us to be grateful. Right, Tan Sifu? Yeah. So she was such a beautiful person. Up until now, I still remember all that beautiful qualities. She passed for 30 years already. She died in 86. But her teaching was just stay in my heart, just stay in the heart. And she said, no matter how poor you are, no matter how patchy your clothes are, they have to be clean, because this is a respect for yourself and for the others. There's always this wonderful teaching. Yeah.
I think my husband used to say that poverty is, you can live in poverty, but being poor is actually a state of mind.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I think it's more difficult.
It is very difficult.
But being poor does not mean you lose your dignity. It's just that it can happen because of the way people treat you and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The way people treat you and the way that you are, your integrity is being hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, so actually, it is not impossible for the poor to practice generosity, but the poor may put an obstacle to themselves, or the poor may react to the obstacles that the outside world are put to them.
Well, they have fewer opportunities sometimes to overcome them.
Of course, of course, of course. So, and so this is why actually the Buddha said. And remember the old lady that I mentioned about, cutting her hair to get the oil to light the lamp for the Buddha. Remember that? That was a beautiful story. You guys haven't heard this. Mary looked very puzzled. So I'm going to repeat the story because it's such a beautiful story. The Buddha was going to give a teachings, big congregation of people, and people like lighting a oil lamp just to offer, because the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, actually symbolizes, with his teachings being there, that he brings light to the darkness and light up the darkness. Okay, so whenever a Buddha was giving a teaching, people would go and light the lamp. And this old beggar woman, he knew that when the Buddha was going to give a teaching that evening, he wanted to light the lamp. So she did not have much money. She only had a few rupees. And so he went to the vendor and said, "Can I get some oil from you? I just had a couple of rupees." And he said, "Oh, no. A couple of rupees, I cannot sell you any oil. Go away. So she left. And later on, she came back and said, "Can you sell me some oil? I want to light up an oil lamp for the Buddha, to offer to the Buddha." "No, go away. I tell you to go away. Your rupees is worth nothing. The oil, at least you have to pay that much to get some oil, right?" And the third time she came back to the shop, and she, instead of asking for oil, she asked the owner, "Do you have a pair of scissors?" The owner thought, "Geez, strange. She's not asking for oil. She's asking for a pair of scissors." In the Indian tradition, women have to keep their hair. They were not allowed to cut their hair because it's the most precious, especially women. If they cut their hair, nobody would marry them in the old days. All right. And so she asked for a pair of scissors, and the owner said, "Okay, I have no oil to give to you, but I can lend you a pair of scissors." He lent her a pair of scissors, and just right when she got that pair of scissors, she just cut off that whole ponytail, long ponytail, and give that to the owner. The owner was shocked. An Indian woman cutting off the hair. And he said, "What did you want?" And she said, "I just want some oil so that I can offer to the Buddha when he starts to give a teaching tonight." So the owner of the oil shop eventually gave her some little oil. And she was so happy, with the short hair. And she went to the venue and she put it in the oil lamp and burned the oil and light it up. And the Buddha's cousin called Devadatta, he did not want the Buddha to give teachings because he always was jealous of the Buddha. And he used his supernatural power trying to blow off all the light, all the oil lamp. And he did. After the Buddha gave the teachings, or during the Buddha, it wasn't very stated very clearly in the commentary whether it was after or it was during. But eventually, Devadatta managed to blow off all the oil lamp. But there was one left. And that one continued to burn until the next morning. And the bhikkhus, the monk, the congregation of monks actually saw that oil lamp still burning in the morning and went to ask the Buddha why there was one oil lamp that did not go out. And the Buddha said, because it was an offering from a poor woman giving up the most precious things of her life just to offer an oil lamp during my teaching. And you see, even the poor, they may not have that conditions to give, but even giving the intent to give is already so precious. Yeah? Beautiful story, isn't it? Yeah, wonderful story. And there is actually another story about Sariputta and Ananda. They are very good friends. They are good friends before they became monks, and they were very good bhikkhus friends after they became monks. And one day, the Buddha went out for alms. It was very hot, and then Ananda and Sariputta was with was it Sariputta or Mahamoggallana? Anyway, one of them. The two bhikkhus went with the Buddha, and it was very hot. And the Buddha sat down, and Ananda said, "Buddha, there was this girl here selling watermelon. Maybe I can go and ask for dana of watermelon." And the Buddha said, "Yeah, sure, go." And Ananda went over to the girl and said, "Well, the Buddha was there, and it is a very hot day. Can you offer a watermelon for the Buddha?" The girl turned away and did not offer a watermelon to Ananda. Ananda was very, very sad. I mean, he thought, the Buddha, you're not offering the watermelon to me. You're offering the watermelon to the Buddha, and you don't want to give? Oh. So he walked back. He said to the Buddha, "I'm sorry, Buddha, I cannot get the watermelon." She refused to give. And I think it was Mahamoggallana. And Mahamoggallana said, "Okay, I will go." And he went. He went to ask the girl, "Could you offer a watermelon for our teacher?" She said, Take how many you want. Just take." He took one, brought it back, and offered to the Buddha. And Ananda saw that and he was puzzled, like you are. Why would the girl not offer a watermelon to Ananda? But yet she offered it to Mahamoggallana or Sariputta. And the Buddha told them the story. In one of your past lives, you two were good friends. And you walk along, and there was a dead cat on the road. And Ananda walked by. Ananda saw the body of a dead cat. He just walked by. But Mahamoggallana saw the dead cat. He picked it up. He went to bury it. And the dead cat was the girl who was selling the watermelon. And Ananda was the one who walked by, did not pay any attention to the dead body, and feel disgusted of that dead body. But yet Mahamoggallana buried it. You see, opportunity is always there for us to give. Always. Whether we are poor, whether we are rich, it's always there for us to give. Even picking up a piece of tissue paper in that in that parking lot is an offering. Offering to make this place clean and tidy. Being poor doesn't take away your chances to offer generosity. Yeah? Beautiful story. So, a lot of time, because the poor thinks that they cannot give, that's why they think that they're being poor is not fair. There was a funny humorous story saying a man robbed the bank and he got caught, and he said, "It's not fair. The bank has all the money and I'm so poor. That's why I want to rob the bank to get some money." Oops, right? So, generosity in the Chinese saying, I wanted to share with you the how actually it makes up of two words. Okay, this is the first word. This side of the word, it means a hand. Okay, a hand. And this is a man. And this little thing inside is a home. Okay, or you can actually also Oh no, this whole thing is a home, but inside is a tongue. Okay, a man with a tongue and with a hand. That means a man can give things with their hand or give things with their mouth. Praising others is also a practice of generosity. Yeah. So this is giving or let go. Okay. And in the Chinese words of defining generosity or to give, is two words. This is to gain, to receive. And look, this is the double man. It's called double man. Okay? It's actually two men standing there. Two men. Whenever you see this represents a man, a human being. And the top one is brightness, light. Okay? And the two words all together, it means what? The more you give, the more you will gain. The little you give, the little you will gain. If you don't give, you don't gain. It says, you say, you duck. This is called say, this is called duck. Say, that means to give. Duck, that means to gain. You say, you duck, the more you give, the more you will gain. 唔寫唔得，唔寫唔得. That means you don't give, there's no way that you can gain. That's beauty of Chinese language. And I just wanted to show you this is what it is. I don't think I can finish the second. Let's see. Okay. It says, okay, all right. The second difficulty is that it is difficult for the rich and the eminent to practice the way. Are you okay with the last one? The giving? The poor, it's difficult for the poor to give? Are you okay with that one? You have any more voices?
Well, to be honest, I do think the poor usually give more than the rich. That's been my experience. I mean, maybe if you're looking at actual in terms of dollars, no, they don't have as much, but percentage-wise, they give more.
It's true. It's true. But it doesn't mean that it's not true. But it's just that the Buddha said it is one of the difficulties that we may face by being poor or by being a human being. When we become poor, then it may be one of the difficulties. Okay? All right? Okay. All right? You want to go on to this? It is difficult for the rich and the eminent to practice the way. And the zoo actually jumped ahead. So, well done. Well, why would you think one is rich this life? Why would you think one is eminent this life? Yeah. Loss of merits. Loss of merits is true. Yep. Yep. Where actually, because why? When they become rich and become eminent, a lot of times, their mind is deluded by their status, by their wealth, by the fame, and the mind is sort of like blindfolded, and all they want to hear is praise. And what do you call that when people like, huh? Yeah, like pedestal, put you on the pedestal, right? Because because the status, a lot of time, because of this status of this eminent position, of this wealth, they, a lot of time, very, very unknowingly and unintentionally, they become so arrogant and so proud of themselves. And they, so nobody is important except them. Right? Don't we see that in our society? We see that a lot of times. We see that a lot of times. And so, yes, when the life is flowing so smoothly and so sweetly, yes, they lose their awareness. Yes, they think they're so important. But if they become poor, then what's there for them to think? And it is actually very difficult for the rich and eminent to practice the way, because the way, when one needs to practice the way, the first thing one needs to learn is to be humble. And arrogance doesn't equal to humble. The ego is too big, too huge. This I is too big, right? And how can one be humble? And then they walk in and say, I want to sit over there. And you get up and let me sit over there. I've seen people like that. I've seen people walking into a temple and asked to have lunch, have dinner, and the temple treat them like they are gods because they give big money to the temple. And so they had the names on the entrance of the hall, and they have the names carved on the pillar of the glue lamp. And I remember vividly what my teacher told me. In case in the future you have an opportunity to build temple, make sure you don't craft any names on any pillars, any glue lamp. I said, why? Because people give so much money, Sifu, then we should acknowledge their donation. He said, we only have that much merits. Even a rich person will have only that much merits. If their merits run out, if their merits exhausted, that pillar, that glue lamp will break. And if you put their name over there, their merits will run out faster. Why? Because it's a show-off piece. They give because they want the name. Is that a kind of good intent? It's kind of good, but there is an intent of having a name. Yeah? Yeah? So that's very important. We all know the Buddhist teachings actually teach us the most important thing is the intent. It's really not the actions, the intent. If you don't have that intent, you won't do such action. Right? The Dhammapada said it all. The first verse of the Dhammapada. So when one is rich, that means they cannot and will not practice the way. Why? Because they are so arrogant. And also the second thing is because they are being so rich, they're being so famous, they are being so well off, they're being so high, they don't experience dukkha that easily. And how would they think, I need to liberate myself? Right? So that is one very important thing. So when we look at the our outside world right now, especially look at politicians, we see this is actually really vividly actually talking about them, right? Yeah. No.
Interesting hear a story about them quite a few years ago. They were headed up to Whistler and their vehicle broke down, so they were just on the side of the road. And another couple stopped and helped them change
All right, Maria. Okay. Okay. So good. Okay. So we bring our attention back to our body, to our breath, and understand and experience this flux of changes happening right now, right here, within this physical existence and this mental existence. And we allow this good thought to arise on our mind for all the benefits that I gathered tonight by listening, hearing the words of the Buddha. May I share all these benefits, all these merits with all beings, human, non-human, visible, invisible, big or small, far or near. May they be free of enmity. May they be free of miseries. May they start to live in a world filled with brightness, warmth, and experience love and peace. May more and more people will encounter the words of the Buddha, study and practice, and liberate themselves from their own entanglements, own dissatisfactions, and be happy and be peaceful. May you all have a good week. Okay, so this is Eva's time. Sorry, I overrun a little bit.